What is going on, Florida State family? Seminole Nation in the 863 tribe. This is your boy Polk, a.k.a. A-Lo, a.k.a. the goddamn truth. You over here on 863 Seminole TV, the most interactive show for the Florida State football fan. The dust is settled. Saturday happened. History, whatever you want to call it, was made. Defy the odds. 14-point dog, won by 14. The fallout has been amazing to watch. Bama fans are in a crisis. The media is in a crisis. I mean, this game has been covered extensively. People are questioning the Boer. They're questioning players' their will to play the game. You name it. Like, it's all been questioned. It's all been analyzed. It's all been talked about extensively. And it felt good. It felt good. But I'm going to tell you, I got to keep it consistent. I said it before the season, so I'm going to reiterate it. The win was great. On to the next. This is not a one game season for Mike Norvell. He's in a make or break. This game goes a long way to what he wants to rebuild, to what he wants, how he wants to be remembered. This game goes a long way to that, and the way they executed it, the way they went about it, the manner in which they won speaks volumes. But it's time, in my opinion, to move on. Mission's not over. You ain't done nothing yet, in my opinion. It's all about the response. I've been saying that all off season. I'm going to continue to say it. The next big game looms. You got a couple duds coming up, right? A couple gimmies. That Virginia game's interesting. I think they play NC State this week. You should probably pay attention to that game. For one, you play both teams. And you play Virginia. Virginia played a Coastal Carolina team that a lot of people don't think is any good, right? So that game can't take anything from that. Well, they're going to play NC State. Now, I don't think NC State is too much. We saw them go toe-to-toe with East Carolina. Don't know how good East Carolina is. But that game is a game we should pay attention to, because Virginia is the next game on the schedule. That matters. But we will talk about what FSU needs to do these next two games. How should they approach these next two games from a roster standpoint, from a player personnel standpoint, how the rotation should look, how long should certain players play, should certain players even play. We got some of that today, Mike Norvell. A little injury update. But that's what we're going to get into. We'll talk a little bit still about that Bama game. But in my opinion, great game. I mean, if y'all watch the instant reaction, I was pretty much speechless. Didn't see that coming. And I don't care what anyone says. Even if you had them winning, you didn't see us bullying Bama the way we did. You didn't see that coming. But how do you build off of that? What's the keys to build off of that? That's kind of what I want to get into. But as always, man, before we start off, y'all hit that like button, subscribe if you're new, and share the videos to all the Florida State fans out there that might be interested in coming over here and kicking it with us. Like, subscribe, share. And let's get into this roll call, and then let's get on these topics. Grand champion in the building. Pastino, Ben Callahan, Giuseppe, KCD, Blake Roberts, Jeff, FSU Tony, Tyrone Oliver, Jose Garcia, Vontae, Michael Adams, Almighty, Grill Masters in the building. Antonio Jenkins. Richards in the building. BG Gaines. Demon. Sports Mark. 850. You know. D Thompson. King Cook. Jeff with the $10 to kick the show off. Shout out to my man Jeff. If I can highlight it. Dadgummit. There we go. Says, here's the thing, people. They can't call it a fluke because we were a more physical football team. Both sides of the ball, we dominated. To the media's credit, I haven't heard anyone call it a fluke. As a matter of fact, one of the things that I think has the Bama faithful, the Crimson Tide Nation, and ESPN in such an uproar is the fact that it wasn't a fluke. It wasn't a, 28-28 game and FSU wins on a last-second field goal type of thing, or in a rainy situation, a fumble and FSU recovered. Like, it wasn't some fluky way to win, a bobbled pass. Remember Auburn and Georgia years back, 2013? Auburn, Bama should have had the pick. Pick bounces right off the guy's check into the Auburn receiver's hands. He goes for it wasn't something like that. So 100% right. Trenches own the day. Something we questioned heavily over here about the trenches. Were we good enough? Were we deep enough in those trenches? Trenches dominated. So Jeff's 100% right. 100% right. Was not a fluke by any stretch of the imagination. KCS is in the building. Champ 99 is in the building. Ray Fitty, Jay Adams, Devon Poindexter, Tyler Head, Maurice Clements, Credible Detailing, Randy Yates, all in the building tonight. Again, hit that like button for your boy. So yes, we know it's one of the things that, in my personal opinion, has shifted my expectations. I was 7-5 before the season. And I was very much, really setting the table for like, okay, regardless of how you play, how do you respond, right? I didn't think we were going to win. Didn't necessarily think we'd keep it close. But we won. We won in a pretty dominant fashion. That win has changed expectations because it's not that you won. It's how you won. I don't believe that effort goes anywhere. It's hard for me to believe that they only got up to play that one game. Don't believe it for a second. The effort, the will, the want to, the determination, I don't believe that leaves this team. So even on the games that maybe we don't execute as flawlessly offensively, right? Even when we don't execute as effortlessly defensively, I think one thing you can guarantee is that they're going to come out every Saturday this year, Saturday, Friday, Thursday, whenever the game is. Every week they play. I don't think you can question that motor that team's going to play with, especially on the defensive side of the ball. That defense, in my opinion, set the entire tone. And it's easy. You could argue the offense set the tone because the defense got a little pushed around on that first drive. But even when you go back and watch, which I'm pretty sure everybody has rewatched that game, that was a 15-play, 8-minute drive or something like that. Bama had to work for every single thing they got on that first drive. It's not in the moment, everybody was like, oh my God, they just ran down the field on us. They actually didn't. They actually didn't just march down the field on us effortlessly. No, they had to work. They had to convert a fourth down on that drive. They had to work for that. And that set the tone. And then the offense answered right away, which obviously momentum. Momentum's a thing. Thank you, Jeff, for the $10 donation.
My name is Jeff.
My man, Incredible Detail in Orlando is always on the check-in. If you're in Central Florida, go get your car detailed by my dog. What up, Polk? It's Chris. Orlando want to check in. Shout out to my guy, Chris.
I get it. I get it. Yeah.
Antonio Jenkins with the $5 don't know. He says, this is giving me Nick Marshall 2013 Auburn offensive type vibes. I don't know the vibes I'm getting yet. I understand that we are extremely bullish after this win. Again, I talked about that Auburn team and how that team was a team of destiny almost. Auburn, they got a lot of luck, a lot of breaks. I think this Florida State team probably has more talent than that Auburn offense. And if you remember preseason, I didn't know that to be the case. I didn't necessarily know that was the case. I was like, man, we don't have a Trey Mason. We don't have a single Trey Mason. But we got a couple guys down there. I don't think Auburn had a Micah Danzy or Jalen Lucas, who were featured heavy in that game. I don't know if Auburn had that. Auburn had a first-round left tackle. I think his name was Glenn Robinson, something like that. I could be wrong about his name. I think that was his name. I don't know if we have a first-round O-lineman, but we got 5 pretty damn good ones. Top to bottom, we'll see. I might like our individual pieces more than what that Auburn 2013 team had. KCS, you guys are rolling in with the chats tonight. Keep them coming. KCS 85 with the $9.99. He says, Mike says Roydell and Pittman are banged up, a.k.a. they've played a lot of ball. We ain't risking them. And then Thomas better knock dudes on their ass this week. Pittman was a beast against Bama. That's a nice little segue into the first topic or the first point that we kind of want to get into. But thank you, KCS, for that. Don't know. As always, appreciate it.
Click a deep clank. The money goes into my piggy bank.
Kainze was good. Yes, Micah. Randy Pittman has been essentially ruled out, in my opinion, until the Virginia game. Not because I don't think he can. Maybe a little dinged up. Why risk it? There's no reason to risk him against a Kent State. There's no reason to risk him against an East Texas A&M. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't it those two games a bye week and then Virginia, if I'm not mistaken? Or is it the bye week after Virginia? I think the bye week's before Virginia. So essentially you're talking about guys getting 2 games rest in a bye week. 3 weeks. No cause for concern. As far as Roydell goes, we'll see. I think his injury might be a little bit more than Pittman, but they could be playing the same game with both players. But yes, Mike came out there and made that clear that Pittman and Roydell wouldn't play. And that brings me again to the first kind of point. I got to use these 2 games. Here's the key, because I don't believe FSU is a finished product. And I don't believe that we've built enough, whatever that word is, that we are at the point where we're just going to come on the field and roll guys over. You got to continue to sharpen your tools. But the question you have to ask, what tools are sharp enough that we don't need to dull them on some inconsequential work? They've already determined that a guy like Pittman, who's played in Gus's system enough, we're not going to risk him. It could be that they're doing the same thing with Roydell. We know what we're getting at a Roydell. No need to risk him. I would argue there is a couple other players that you can go the same route with. But I also want to be clear, you got to continue to sharpen up the tools. Not a finished product. I'm hearing a lot of people say, Oh, the starters shouldn't play past the first quarter. Wrong. Those starters need to play. You got to remember, there's 11 new players on offense. 10, 9, 11 new players on defense. No, they need to play together, especially if we're talking O-linemen. I know we want to say, let's let the young guys play on the O-line. Sure, in that second half, I'm with it. But the O-line needs more reps together. Not because they're not good. They're individually good. What you saw on Saturday was a good offensive line performance. If you go back and watch it, Bama put a lot of bad tape out there. Bama didn't look coached. That defensive front didn't look coached. Didn't look like they wanted to be out there, or didn't look like they knew what they were supposed to be doing. That's not an excuse for Florida State, or that's not me trying to downplay the FSU's offensive linemen, but they need more time against a better coach unit. Against a more – let me tell you something. I talked about that Miami team, and I said I wanted to see what they look like against Notre Dame. I think there's still some things that you can exploit at Miami. Miami's offensive line and defensive line is just as good and just as physical of what we saw from Florida State on Saturday. That's going to be a war in the trenches on both sides of that ball when that game comes around. That offensive line, speaking of ours, needs to be in sync and ready to play that game. They need to use these 2 games to get that time. Now, does that mean they need to be playing until the fourth quarter? Absolutely not. They better not be. No reason to be playing in the fourth quarter in these next 2 games. But they need to play I don't care if it's 35-0 at the end of the first quarter. The starters need to stay in the game because the communication still needs work. Just knowing what you're doing still needs work. Not a finished product. Keep them out there. I know we want to be, whatever, and we want to have a big head and we want to talk the talk. And you risk it. But at the end of the day, you risk it every time you step on the field. So you can't play scared. You can't coach scared. Go out there, let them guys play for the first 2 quarters, period. That's on both offensive and defensive line. However, I would argue on the defensive line, there's one player that I would say, you know what? I don't need to see him for the next 2 games. It's Darrell Jackson. Darrell Jackson at 6'6", 330, and he might weigh more than that, played 55 snaps for you. For a guy that size, that's impressive. You probably don't need to see him. KJ Sampson needs some work. Let him go ahead and get some of those snaps. Obviously, some other guys maybe you can sprinkle in there. Daniel Lyons showed up, obviously. Could you sneak a Tylen Lee in there to get some of those snaps? Is Kevin Wynn going to be ready? Don't know. If he is, get him in there. I don't need to see Darrell Jackson in the next 2 games. He's sharp enough. That's not a tool that I need to sharpen up. He's sharp enough. He's sharp enough. He knows exactly what he's doing. He's showing you that he's in full season shape. That guy was getting triple teamed at some points. Darrell Jackson did exactly what I said he needed to do if FSU was going to win that game. The sacks, none of that stuff matters. And the position that he plays, he is a nose tackle. He's a nose guard. His job is to get up there and eat blocks. And that freed up. Who'd that free up? That freed up Blake Nicholson. That got Jalen Jenkins, McCray, Jaden Jones. It got these guys one-on-one opportunities to go make plays. The Sear, both of them, one-on-one opportunities to get out there and make some plays because they had to account for 6 with at least 2 people and sometimes 3. These guys, these next couple weeks, should be able to win their one-on-ones. I don't necessarily need to see Darrell Jackson. So if they told me that they wanted to sit him out or he was dealing with an injury, I wouldn't mind that at all. I wouldn't mind that at all. That's probably really the only other player that I can think of. Everybody else, I would argue, play him. That secondary had its moments, looked good. Still got to communicate better back there. Let them play. Them linebackers, Let a guy like Blake Nicholson and Juice Cryer, let those guys build off that. Let them play. Let those guys play, man. And then in the second half, of course, you get in there and get your young guys some reps, because then you got to sharpen those tools. Because ultimately, what's going to happen, whether it's Miami, Clemson, whoever, you are going to need to test your depth. Depth may eventually come into place. Can you use these next 2 games to build that depth? I think you can. It just dawned on me, and I'd be remiss if I didn't mention this. I actually should have led the show off with this. Everybody in the chat, I need you to put the prayer hands. For Ethan Pritchett, suffered a gunshot wound to the head this past weekend. If you're in Discord, you guys kind of knew about it before the news broke. Not saying that I break news. It's just something that came up. Somebody mentioned it to me. I didn't want to release a name on it because no reports had been verified yet. But if you're in the Discord, we talked about that already. And I should have led the show off with this. I need the prayer hands in the chat for that young man. Sucks. That is a terrible situation. From my understanding, the brother was just dropping off a family member or something. It's not like it was, somewhere out there being silly or anything. So, we got to pray for him. Forget if he ever, I don't care if he ever plays football again. Pray for that man to regain consciousness. Seriously, pray for that man to have a long, healthy life. So I appreciate all that prayers and in the comments, because absolutely got to pray for that young man. I should have let. That's my apologies. I should have led the show off with that. But yeah, these next 2 games, man, I think you got to use them to sharpen up the tools. I really do. Let me get to some of these comments. I see the chat has been moving. I think I missed a super chat. I did miss a super chat from who else but the main man, Jeff, with the $5. He says, what surprised me is how well the freshmen played on the defense and have more depth. Yeah, I agree. I said it on Saturday. 93 blew me away. 93 blew me away. Had no idea that's what I was getting at it this year. I know they talked all summer about the Twins. And I'm like, it's just coach speak. Nah. Them young men are for real. Especially 93. When I talk about if I want to talk about a single number on defense, not named or not number 0, if I talk about the number that wasn't number 0 that flashed, it was 93. 93 stayed on my screen. He stayed on my screen. Appreciate that. Don't know, Jeff.
My name is Jeff.
Ben says that Jordan Travis injury scared me, Polk. Don't want none of the guys getting hurt against us. And I understand the logic. But you also got to get these guys need reps. Again, this isn't a team that I think can just roll out of bed and win a football game. They proved against Bama, motivated and determined, they can probably play with any team in the country. And I know all the talk's going to be, well, Bama ain't Bama. Okay, well, I don't believe Bama's Bama either. Bama still got one of the top 5 rosters in the country. Bama's still talented. Now, whether DeBoer could get them guys to put it together or not, that's a whole different conversation. But what they showed is that they can play with just about anybody in the country. But this team needs more reps. They are a work in progress, and that's okay because they are starting here. I don't know if it's in the camera. They are starting up here as a work in progress. So that tells you the sky is probably the limit or could be the limit. Don't want to get too in over our heads. But it's not. We're not starting down here. They're up here, and they're still a work in progress. They can get better. Yes, I hear from a lot of people. That's the loudest that statement's been in a very long time. said Bane is on TC's ass. Okay, Zay. You better be able to catch him. Miami wasn't impressive, John Doe says. Like I said, there's things from Miami to exploit. I'm still. They didn't have. I still think there's a huge question mark around Miami secondary. There wasn't a quarterback to kind of, and they gave up some. Miami had some bust in the back end. But if you weren't impressed with that offensive line, Carson Beck is playing behind the Great Wall of China, man. I don't know how good or bad Notre Dame's D-line is. It's usually pretty good. That offensive line is for real. Now, we said that about Bama, but we went out there and exposed that. But that offensive line is impressive. That defensive line is athletic. If you are not impressed by those two things, I get it. That's just the Florida State fan in you. But I think it's going to be a battle in the trenches. Let me catch up in the chat. What's good, Fatal Jedi? Yes, he's in stable condition. Critical but stable condition. And we're just going to continue to pray for him. These coaches are different from last year. I like this comment in this sense. Gus is Gus, okay? What you got Saturday is what you get from Gus Malzahn. The misdirection, the eye candy, all that good stuff. The Jets, like Gus did what Gus does. Don't throw the ball a lot, but a lot of times you don't need to. And when you do decide to throw the ball, it can be effective because of what you set up in the run game. Where I was blown away, okay. So a lot of y'all in the chat get on to me because I've been saying the Jimmies and Joes mean more than the X's and O's, and I stand by that. But I think some of y'all take that as me saying that coaching doesn't matter. And I've never said coaching doesn't matter. And where coaching matters more than anything isn't in the X's and O's. Good players can make – ask Adam Fuller. Good players can make your scheme look good. You think – what's the difference between Adam Fuller last year and the year before? Well, the year before he had Jarrett Verse, Braden Fish, Ronaldo Green, Jerry Jones, a bunch of NFL guys. That's a fact. Good players can make a scheme. So I stand by Jimmy's and Joe's over the X's and O's. But what a coach can do, check out Tony White. Motivate. Give a sense of purpose. Set a standard and hold to that standard. That's what happened to that defense. Tony White preached it all offseason. And some of us may have just thought it was talk. But Tony White kept saying all offseason, if you don't play hard for me, you ain't playing. That defense played. That was the first, as a collective unit, that defense, that was the first time, in my opinion, FSU's defense had looked like a FSU defense in terms of speed, power, determination, will. Since the 2013, 14, 15s. Seriously, a Willie Taggart defense never looked like that. That's not me taking a shot at Willie. That's just me putting it in the perspective. None of Mike Norvell's defenses prior to Saturday ever looked like that. Again, even with Jermaine and Jarrett Verse and these guys, they never looked like that. That's where the coaching matters. He set a list of demands. You will play this way, or you will not play. Got to give credit to Tony White. That's where the difference, in my opinion, matters. Scheme is great. Players can make scheme. Having a leader that motivates you to run through that brick wall, that makes the difference. That makes the difference. Riley, Polk, can we start telling lies yet? We can tell all the lies we want to tell. I want to tell lies. if I'm going to have hope and be willing to be hurt again, I'm going to have to tell some lies. Again, battle in the trenches. I think I would agree with that because actually, give me a second. Let me turn on this light. I'll be right back. That looks a lot better. But like I was about to say, I agree with that. Because we don't have a prototypical passer that I think can exploit what I still believe Miami's weaknesses in that secondary. I'm not sold on that. That was a freshman quarterback. He was able to find some busting coverage. But I don't necessarily know if we have a quarterback to exploit that either. And it's the offensive identity in general. Regardless, we're going to try to run it down on them. Maybe Gus switches it up that game, though. We'll see. I know it's just one game, Ben, but I might go on the record and say, yeah, he's the best DC we've had since Pruitt. I don't think that's a stretch. Would y'all think Charles Kelly better than Tony? We damn sure know who was our DC under Willie. I don't even remember. Buddy from Michigan State, he wasn't it. Then we have co-DCs under Willie. Don't even matter. And then, of course, Adam Fuller wasn't. So, no, that's not a stretch. Now, when you say take him over Stoops, slow your roll. Don't forget the championship caliber defenses that Stoops built. So, slow your roll. Don't disrespect Stoops. Them other guys, I'm with you, though. What's up, Irv? Yes, 100%. 100%. I don't listen to a lot of the interviews, to be honest with you. And I've said this about Mike for a long time, so this is not me just piling on Mike. I tend to kind of tune his interviews out. His interviews are – I think a lot of y'all probably agree. Like, you hear one Mike interview, you probably heard them all. But when Tony and Herb talk ball, I'm dialed in. Those are easily my two favorite coaches on the roster. Even over a guy like Surtain, who I love Surtain, but yeah, those two guys. Ashlyn Barker was legit, man. Caveman asks a good question here. What are your concerns about Virginia game? Because I believe that you guys will be undefeated when we play. This is going to sound cliche, but it's simple. I ain't worried about Virginia. I'm worried about Florida State. Do we show up? B-Mac had an all-time quote at the end of the game that he told the team. He used the word perfume. I'll use the word cologne since we're dealing with young men. But either way, he said, it smelled perfume. Cologne smells good. But if you drink it, it's poison. That's my worry when talking about the next 3 games. Don't smell yourself. You can smell it. It smells good right now. Don't start. And even if you ever ran across somebody that's got too much cologne on, makes you sick. They've drenched themselves in cologne, and it's like, ooh, right? Because it can be poison. That's from BMAC. I can't take credit for that, obviously. But Caveman, that's to answer your question. As long as FSU has their ducks in a row, yes, we will be undefeated playing Miami Hurricanes. What are the odds that UCF doesn't beat one of UF or Scum? And what are the odds that the team that USF beats doesn't defeat each other? I don't know the odds, but what I will speak to is that Florida game this weekend is interesting. Now, Florida played Long Island Iced State. Them boys were drunk on the field. But if you look at some of the stats, Florida gave up, I think Lagway was sacked 3 or 4 times, and Florida gave up like 11 tackles for loss against that team. Now, I don't know if that's because Florida didn't play anybody. I don't know if they're suffering. I mean, I know they had injuries in the offseason. I don't know if that played a part of it. Pay attention to USF in Florida. I don't think USF will beat Miami. Pay attention to USF in Florida. That's all I'll say. Yes, I've always said that to Almighty, so I agree with you. Yes, and you gotta love again. Gotta love what the coaches are preaching. Gotta love what the coaches, and I'm interested to see who plays in the second half on that O-line. I'm interested to see like what that looks like. There's a lot of young players in these games that I'm very intrigued to watch. But I also think the starters need to play to start. Starters need to play. What's up? F55SU. USF is in the American Conference, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, her. I mean, I knew I liked Herb when he said he don't rotate guys. He sticks with his 5, and they got to get it done. That's when I knew I liked Herb then. But that's what you got to look forward to. The young guys. There's some guys that we didn't get to see, like Arno and some of these other guys in that secondary. Like, do we get to see? I don't think Kai Bates got any snaps. I expect to see him. I don't think did Lester get any snaps? I'm not sure, but you probably see more of him. I expect a lot more rotations, obviously, defensively, and they rotated a bunch of D linemen. I expect to see a little bit more. The JUCO Coleman should see him. You might see Jamori Flagg, who was not going to play against Bama, but he should play in this game. Again, I'm interested. Do you see a Tyler Lee, a Jesse Harold? Did some of these guys make an appearance? I don't see why you wouldn't. Just to get them some game film. Even if they're not very effective in the second half, the game should be at a reach anyway. Just to get them some game film and see what they need to work on in live situation. So I think you need to. I think they'll go deep into the well, especially defensively. Offensively too. I think offensively you do the same. Specifically at the skill positions. And that'll kind of lead me, what's up, Terrell? That'll lead me kind of to my next point. Maybe it's a question, but I have a point to make. But I will ask the question. Is Brock Glenn the first quarterback we see, or do we see Sperry first? What do you guys think? After your answers, I'll give my thoughts on the quarterback situation. But the question is, do we see Brock Glenn first as QB2, or do we see Sperry? And in the meantime, I mean, Grillmaster kind of speaks on right here. You want to see what Sperry looked like. Ben, what's the plan for Shaheen? Seems like he's a tad behind the rest of the defense, but he's got seniority. He's probably going to play the same role he's played in Bama game. Going to be in the rotation, but not a starter. And Shaheem, again, he seems to have the same problems, bad angles. Alec Boy says Sperry. Momo says Glenn. Brock's still hurt. He was warming up on Saturday. I don't remember if he dressed out or not. Jeff thinks Sperry. Richard thinks it'll be Glenn. We will not see Brock. UF. I guess you'll talk about something else. Brock Glenn's first. Brock will be QB2. Tyler's, I want to see Sperry. Ben says we've seen enough of Brock. No, not. Oh, we talk about that UF game. Sports says I think Brock. Island Boy says he just doesn't see Brock in Gus's scheme. And then Momo says look for Boggs to have a good game. Boggs should play all 4 quarters, in my opinion. Those young guys should play. I wouldn't be mad if Chroma played all 4 quarters personally. That might be a controversial take to some. But Chroma needs work too. I know he's a physical specimen. Yes, he is. But it wouldn't hurt him to play. Would not hurt him to play. I mean, knock on wood, it wouldn't hurt him to play, right? But I would play Chroma for a decent part of that game. But back to the quarterback conversation. I personally think they should go with Sperry. Now, if you want to play, I wouldn't be mad if they rotated him series. Again, this is if Brock's healthy. I know he's been hurt all offseason. I'm not sure if he's even, but he's listed on the depth chart. So take that for what it's worth. They have him listed on the depth chart. But I wouldn't be mad if they rotated series. Or ultimately, in my opinion, just go with the guy who fits what you're doing offensively. That's not a knock on Brock. Like, I appreciate Brock Glenn for who and what he is. He didn't have to stick with the team, right? He stayed, all that good stuff. But the run game takes a drastic dip if you play Brock Glenn. And if Sperry is the guy that fits what you're doing offensively, then you might as well prepare him in the unfortunate circumstance that TC goes down for a game or even a couple series. You at least want to have some confidence that Sperry can come in there and run the offense to somewhat of an effective way. Would not be mad if they just played Sperry the entire second half. Wouldn't be mad at that at all. If you want to keep Brock Glenn engaged, then I say rotate him a series or 2. Just rotate him. That's what I would do. Zuri Williams says, I think Brock, but Sperry would be exciting. Josh says we should see Sperry because we know what Brock can do, and he is not a fit for what Gus wants to do. KCS says, I think Sperry gets the reps. Just like the starters need the reps, he will too. Gus ain't mentioned Brock not one time. Gus and Tony ain't lied yet. Tyler says, is Brock taking over after TC is gone? Doubtful. It should be Sperry. But there's not a guarantee that TC leaves after this year. I believe TC has another year. I want to see Donnie. I hear you. Danzy at punt return. Tyler says he's tired of the muffs. This hesitant return game that bites us in the ass. Either catch the ball or get a mile away. And I'm with you there. To Lucas's defense, that ball should have been called dead because it hit a Bama defender's foot. I don't know why nobody saw that. I don't know why that wasn't reviewed. whoever in the booth should do their job better. But also, Lucas should have just caught the ball, or like you say, get away from it to not even be in that situation. But the ball did hit the Bama defender's foot on that play. So it should have been a dead ball. But your point is valid. Either go catch the ball, man, or don't even get close to the ball. You want to see the fourth-string guy too? I don't know. I'm interested to see, is he even dressing out? So there's a lot of roster conversations to have these next two games because, again, there's guys that you need to play. And like me personally, if you're a freshman, you should be prepared to play all 4 quarters. I don't care how good you looked. Boggs, Chroma, the Twins, those guys need to play. The more the veteran guys that if you can afford, get them off the field, you do it. But I agree. Like we want to see, we want to see those young guys continue to play because those young guys are going to be counted on in the bigger games that's left on the schedule. They're going to be counted on even in the games that we think we should win. Virginia and all those, they're still going to be counted on. The Stanfords, whatever. You let them get those reps. Let them get those reps. $10.7 million views, peaked at 12.9, highest viewed 330 game ever. Box office boys. I mean, but isn't that the argument that Florida State has made to the ACC repeatedly? Which is why we took them to court and all that stuff transpired the way that it transpiring. Because, again, we carry the conference. It is what it is. It is what it is. Would like Brock to stay for his experience, but if he takes over, we know what's coming. He's gotten plenty of reps. Yes, I didn't speak this name, but you can expect to see Cam Davis, especially if Roy Dell's out. That just leaves an extra spot open on the rotation. I don't expect to see a lot of Lucas. Lucas should play, but no reason to have him been playing into the third quarter. But the guys like Cam Davis, Singleton, those guys should have plenty of opportunities. Keziah Holmes, I know he's a veteran player, but he's a guy that you can afford to play in that second half, in my opinion. Guys like that. So, no, I agree. I think we'll see some Cam Davis. And look, if Cam Davis wants to quiet some of the talks around him, I mean, he didn't get a snap against Bama, and no one expected him to. If Cam Davis wants to quiet some of that, then go out there against these FCS teams. Kent State might as well be an FCS team, and perform. And perform. 100% perform. Real talk, Brock deserves some kudos for knowing his role, his ability, and loyal holding the clipboard. I agree. He deserves that QB2. Sperry needs to get his 2. But in this day and age, Brock deserves a thumbs up. And that's why I said, for Brock Glenn's sake, if you wanted to rotate them, damn plane. If you want to get Brock some play, I would rotate. Or maybe Brock plays the third and Sperry plays the fourth, something like that. However, like I was saying, I wouldn't be mad if you just went with Sperry in the second half because that's really the guy that's going to continue and fall in line from everything that we've heard now, that quarterback run game with Gus. What's up, Kusami? So Kusami, I think the floor is now 8-4. So I was before the season, I said your floor was 6-6, the ceiling was 8-4. I picked him to go 7-5. Well, you've knocked out one major obstacle. So best case scenario, and again before Saturday was you beat all the teams you're supposed to beat, but you lose the big four. That was the best. That was the ceiling. Now you're looking at it and you're going, well, you've already knocked one of the big four out. So the floor is either 8-4 or 7-5. Your ceiling going to 9-3, and right in the middle at 8-4 would mean that you would lose the rest of the games you're not favored in, and blow a NC State game or something like that. But the more you watch the ACC, Kusami, the more I go, I'm not impressed with this. I wasn't impressed with the conference before Saturday, before opening weekend, but my God, is the ACC terrible. Just as an entire conference. Like we can start at the top. Not counting Florida State and Miami because they took care of business. Clemson. I still think Clemson has a legit defense. But when you go to the offensive side of the ball, whoo. Now, I don't know how good that LSU defense is. I know FSU has played that LSU team 2 straight years and handled business. Take from that whatever. And they still got some of the same players over there. But Clemson offensive line looks atrocious. They don't have a running game. There's a lot of questions on Clemson's offense. You can have the best receivers ever. If Cade Klubnik can't get time to throw him the ball, they are a mute point. That O-line looked bad. Klubnik, and I've never been the biggest Klubnik guy. One of the reasons I was so high on Clemson prior to the beginning of the year is simply I thought the defense was the real deal. And I still think that front seven is the real deal. But if you can't score points, Clemson scored 10 points at home primetime game. When's the last time that's happened? In Death Valley, primetime. When's the last time Clemson has been looked like that offensively? Clemson has some major issues offensively. Don't get me started on North Carolina, Virginia Tech, Syracuse. We talked about NC State playing East Carolina down to the wire. I'm not impressed with the ACC. We already seen Stanford lose to Hawaii. There's nothing in the ACC to really be worried about. Wake Forest looks like they suck. 8-4 may very well be your floor. And if FSU is going 9-3, 10-2, they're doing exactly what I asked Mike Norvell to do, and that was compete for the ACC. You want me to get off your back? Not when you beat Bama. That's a great start. But if you're competing, if we're in the mix, if we have an opportunity to play either Clemson, because it will be one of those two teams, either Clemson or Miami, for an ACC title, if we're in that mix, then I think you've done your job, Mike Norvell. Jeff, you're killing it here with the $5 super chat. He says, get your stars, early reps, get big lead, rest them, put in the backups, put the freshmen in. That's the way to do it.
My name is Jeff.
Panama says, if I was Mike, I would tell my OC and DC to be vanilla as possible with the play calling. No need to take. So here's the beautiful thing about that, Panama, and anybody else in the chat can verify this, or you can argue it. But I said this right after the game. Gus did some stuff, but Gus did not get into his bag like we know he can. FSU is just winning the point of attack. Defensively, same thing. Defensively was more vanilla than now. Offense, Gus did do some stuff, but defensively, Tony did not blitz. We didn't bring a bunch of exotics. We weren't blitzing from different parts of wasn't a bunch of safety blitzes or secondary blitz. No, we didn't have to. Our front four, our front three was just getting pressure on its own. Linebackers were filling the correct gaps. 100% that Tony White ain't even had to reach into his bag yet in terms of what he can call to really mix some stuff up. So I'm with you on that, and I don't think they're going to have to. They didn't have to against Alabama. No reason why they're going to have to against Texas, A&M East, and Kent State. Well, I think FSU's already paid the Pied Piper for that one. That was the whole Tate Rodemaker situation. And again, I'm not saying Tate Rodemaker would have been the answer to last year's woes. But you saw that with that, why Tate Rodemaker ditched us at the last second, because that was a guy who stayed loyal, thought it was his time, and they went out and got DJU. So we've already seen how that played out, to your point, Bradley. Sportsman says, let's be real. LSU didn't take points at the end of the half to be up 13-10. They also had a clear touchdown that was called incomplete. That wide receiver broke the plane. Clemson also has no running game and no O-line play. Clemson's got some things that they got to work out. Polk, keep in mind, NC State. Yeah, and I understand that. And that is one of that game and the Pitt game are the two games on my radar. Not Miami, Florida, or Clemson, not counting those. It's NC State and Pitt. Those are the two games that's on my radar. So 100% agree. Canes for life with the $5. Got a Miami fan showing some love. What's up? He says, Polk, ready on the win. I write with the content because you will call it right down the middle, unbiased, bro. Thank you very much. And I rock with you because you support. Love it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. And since you're a Miami fan, I got to do it to you.
Bitch, be humble. Bitch, sit down. Be humble. Sit down.
Am I the only one that doesn't understand the hype with South Carolina? Here's the thing with South Carolina that you can't deny. Whether you believe that they can put it all together or not, they have freaks on that team. Lenora Sellers is a freak. Sellers is a freak. Harbor is a freak. Now, I don't like Harbor at receiver. I think when I watch him at receiver, I know he's a big, long, rangy athlete. He doesn't look natural in that position. He looks very awkward. He doesn't have great hands. But he's got speed, and I understand why they put him there. I think he would have been a dynamic guy on the opposite end of the other freak that they have in Stewart. They have at least – Stewart is a top 5 pick. He's an absolute, the best defensive end they've had since Clowney. You could argue he might end up being a better prospect than Clowney. We can have that conversation. The Gamecocks have some freaks that you go, okay, they put it together. Like they can compete, man. I think the Gamecocks was my preseason SEC sleeper because they have legit talent. You saw it against Virginia Tech with the quarterback, with that receiver, and with your boy over there on the edge, man. They got some nasty players. They have some nasty players. It's another good point from William. He says, we really didn't go up tempo. We didn't get as fast. We done seen Gus offenses go fast. That's what I'm saying. That's if you want to take a lot of things from the Bama game that you can take, look at what we didn't do against Alabama. That's what you can take from that Bama game. What we didn't have to do. Not what we didn't do, what we didn't have to do to win. Yes. Yes. That's all I'll say about that, Kusami. Yes. I've been high on Earl from the jump. So to see Earl play the way he played and reinforce the hype I was giving him, a lot of people were questioning Earl. I wasn't. I was like, no, I love the move with this rover. I think he's going to flourish. Y'all know I was saying that? Yes. Let me catch up in the comments. Yeah, we blitzed a few times, but I'm saying we didn't have to blitz. Yes, we did a couple things, but TC really didn't have to get into it like that. One thing I think is being overlooked with the play calling is Gus play calling in the red zone. Do we have a 2nd and goal all game? What was that play that Keziah scored on? What down was that? What down was that, Tyler? I feel like that was a 2nd or a 3rd down. I don't think that was a 1st down. Could be wrong. What down was that Keziah play? So, again, as you go forward, which should be the focus, is moving forward. Bama game happened. You've celebrated a couple days. It was opening weekend, so you got a Sundays and Monday game, so you were able to kind of – but now it's time to lock in. And, again, we understand the two teams that are ahead of us. It was a 1st down. Momo said it was a 2nd down. Was it a first? I was wondering if it was a 2nd down. But maybe it was a 1st down. But it's time to move on. I think the sky's the limit, man. And I know that's not the tone that I had in the preseason, but I could only go up. I was saying it all preseason. The beautiful thing about this team was we had no idea what it was going to be. That's what I was so intrigued by. Do I believe that the media lockout made us a better team? No. But I liked it. Do I believe, not having a spring game helped? Not necessarily. But not getting to see certain things, like just listening to a coach say, oh, this guy is playing well. Yeah, okay, coach. Jane Jones been here for 3 years. You telling me all of a sudden he's one of the best players? Well, came on Saturday. He made a play. He made a play. He needs to put it more together too. That's probably a guy that I would play at least 3 quarters. I would probably play Jane Jones in the second half. Yeah, that game's all over YouTube, by the way. They got a condensed version. They got the full version, so you can watch the game as much as you need to. The Tyler says, Gus seemed to hurry up in the 1st and goal situations and punch it in quick. Love that. Yep. Kusam says, facts. Many of us is our first time getting a glimpse at this team. Yeah. Had no idea what we were getting, and it looked good. And we didn't have to listen to FSU media tell us that this guy was or wasn't doing anything. The coaches, a lot of the guys that the coaches named, the hype was legit. Maybe we should trust, and I'm saying this to myself, maybe trust the coaches more. And I haven't been one to trust, especially when it comes to that damn head coach. But these coordinators seem to know what the hell they're talking about. And Deuce is another guy. Like Deuce and TC need to I'm interested to see the play calling because I'm interested to see because I think the expectation is gonna be that we can just run the ball if we want. If we in these two games, we should just be able to run the ball. We ran for 230 against Bama. We could run for 300 probably against these two teams. And that's not. I don't think I'm embellishing that or lying about that. But I'm interested to see do they try to work get. One thing about Gus offense, it does demand a lot from your receivers in the blocking game. If you can't block, you can't play. But you also have to reward those guys. If you're going to ask them, if you're going to run the ball, what did we run the ball? 50 times, I think, or something like that. I think we ran the ball like 50 times against Bama. Only threw 14 passes. If you're going to do that, you got to keep your receivers engaged. So I'm interested to see in these two games, did they just try to – I'm not saying air it out and throw it 30-plus times or anything crazy like that, but maybe get that 14 to 20, 22, 25. Can we get a few more passes out there and get Deuce and Squirrel a little bit more involved so they can, so when we're asking them to block play after play after play, they're more engaged. I'm interested to see how they work that in. There's actually a couple good breakdowns from a film study perspective on YouTube. I can't speak. It's not Doc Staples that I watched. I watched I forget this guy's name, but he wears the glasses. He's a white guy. Did a real good breakdown, specifically of Bama's defense. Like he tore him to shreds, but everything he was saying was legit. You guys might know who I'm talking about. I can't think of his name, but I watched that. Mekhi Danzy was a player that had me locked in heavy. And, yeah, I kind of like going in blind into the first game, not knowing what to expect. Now we know what to expect. So just as much as, that expectation for the team has just skyrocketed, but that's where the coaches come into play, right? That's where the coaches come into play, and you tell them kids, man, block that out. Right now, everybody's back on the bandwagon. Don't let it get to your head. Mighty Noel, after seeing us Saturday, we're definitely working with something this year. Players and coaches, you're doing a great job as usual. Thank you. Pittman's situation is interesting. I'm not reading a lot into that, Momo. I don't think he's as hurt. I just think there's no need to play him. But Pittman is an important piece going forward, is what I will say. I actually have that, thanks to somebody on Twitter. I have that Pittman block clipped that will be coming to you shortly as one of my super chat videos. The Pittman video where he knocks the Bama defender into the dirt, like just straight up blocks him, knocks his block off. I have that one clipped, so that'll be coming shortly. All gas, no brakes. Bye week comes out. Is it the bye week after this one? I wasn't sure if the bye week was before Virginia, but if it's after this game, okay. Not a bad time for a bye week. Not a bad time at all. And like we said in the offseason, I thought we got Bama at the perfect time. Now, I don't know what Bama's going to end up being. They have Bama's got legit problems from just a effort standpoint. The boys act like they're too good to be out there. Bama's got some games that, if you look at that schedule, the way Florida State played them, and then you look at with the mobile quarterback, and you look at the Oklahomas, you look at Auburn with Jackson Arnold, who ran wild on them last year. They got Tennessee. They got South Carolina and Sellers. I mean, if Castellanos can do that, what can Sellers do to them? Bama, if you told me Bama was a 7-5, 8-4 team, I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility at all. The Boer, come November, might be playing for a bowl game. Like there's a huge shift right now going on in the SEC. Bama's just a part of the group now. They are no longer the premier team in that conference. I think everybody would agree. Bama's just another team, which is crazy because you look at the roster and you go, okay, there's NFL players all riddled throughout that roster. But Bama better figure it out. They play in the conference that they love to brag about. Well, they got some games and they don't get to rest. Now they get to rest this week because they play UL Monroe. And he better not. The Boer better not find a way to lose that damn game. Whew. Jeff says, I don't think it's a serious injury with Pittman. I think they just don't need this game. They can really and the tight end to your point, Jeff, the tight end room's deep. Let's get Amari out there. Let's get Landon Thomas out there. Marcus and Douglas. We got Lofton should get some burn, right? You got tight ends, especially against the caliber opponent that you're going against. Yeah, I think you're fine at the tight end room. Yes, I did see Pettis got a little X-rated out there after pancaking a guy. But that's what we've missed, Tyler. It's funny, don't get me wrong. Some might even go as far as to say I don't know if dirty is the right word, but you could argue that that's unnecessary. But that's the type of mentality that this FSU team has missed sorely. Is to not just beat your guy up, but impose your will. And then once you impose it on him, you don't help him up. You don't just get up. You let him know. Get comfortable. Because I own you. Love it. Love it. Do you think this defense can be better than the 23 defense with First or Visk? With First and Visk. I believe they can in terms of an 11 guys to the football and one in the headhunt. It remains to be seen. By the end of that year, that defense was, I don't know if I want to go all time, but it was playing championship caliber football. So I'll hold my judgment as far as comparing it to that. But again, one thing I know is that they're going to play hard every week. If you want to bet anything, is that they'll play hard. No matter what the record ends up being, and regardless of beating Bama. Press on you with the turnaround and effort. Yeah, that's the thing that stands out. That's what I keep going back to. That's what I was just saying to Tyler. I'll keep speaking on it. The looking dominant again was the breath of fresh air to me. That's what had me speechless. It wasn't that you necessarily beat Bama. You beat them in a manner that, again, I don't care what you thought. Anybody, you can say what you want to say now. But if I had a lie detector test and hooked all of y'all up to it before that game, even if in your heart you said, I think FSU beats Bama, none of you thought that they were going to go out and just physically impose their will on the Crimson Tide. Physically embarrass them. Didn't see that coming. My new I don't know if I have a new prediction. I don't. 7-5. It was my prediction. I'm not. As of right now, that would be a disappointment. But I don't know what the number is I want to put on it yet. And I'll be honest with you. I probably won't have that for you until Miami. I want to see how they look against the next big opponent, or at least Virginia for me. Miami, we know, right? We know. But if you go out there and dominate Virginia, we definitely got some more to talk about, right? Definitely got some more to talk about. So I kind of want to wait. I just want to wait I want to wait. I want to wait and see just how FSU continues to build. When you say Bama is closer to the team that lost to Vandy, that's cool. That team also beat Georgia. So take that however you want to take it, right? Yes, that Bama lost to Vandy last year. They also beat Georgia, who did go to the playoff. So I think Georgia did end up winning the SEC, if I'm not mistaken, didn't they? So let's catch 22. You can if you want to downplay Bama and say, well, they're not X, Y, and Z, that's fine. It's a whole picture there. We got some legit O-line starters that are smart, experienced, and coached by an old school O-line coach who knows the game inside and out. Jeff says my score was 31-28 over Bama. I didn't expect that type of dominance. You're right. Get the shutout versus Virginia. Just beat them by 2 scores. Beat them by 2 scores. What's up, No 84? The revenge tour. Brian says we can still easily lose to Miami, Florida. Yes, that's the whole point I've been making. Is this team isn't a finished product. You just don't. You're not just going to roll out and get victories. Continue to build. If we were to lose all 3 of those, we'll likely find a way to lose another. I'm still at 8-4 until we beat one of those 3. And that's fair analysis. Alabama is the most talented roster in football. Physically dominating them means something. Doesn't mean we win in the Natty, but it means we can do something. And Big Bus says, I remember what Brian McFadden says in the team locker room, don't drink the praise. Yes. Yep, spoke on that. And that's exactly, the point that I've made this video, this live stream, is that don't drink the poison, like Brian McFadden said. And what's the old other cliche term? Keep the main thing the main thing. 100%. But yeah, so we got it's a noon kickoff. I don't even know if that game's gonna be on. I'm sure it'll be on the ESPN app, but I don't have the ESPN app. I'm hoping that game is on YouTube TV so I can watch it. But it's a noon kickoff, so that game will be done fairly early. And that'll leave you the rest of your Saturday. Stay focused. The sky is the limit. Didn't Vandy beat Georgia Tech last year? I don't know. Did they? Honestly, I don't remember. I agree with you. We're not a finished product. I think we played really well against Bama, but there's a lot left on the table that we can improve on. Exactly. It's on the ACC network. So hopefully I can. Okay, if it's on Hulu, I should be able to catch it then. I got Hulu too. The Bama DC going to be fired by the end of the year. Chroma gets 100 yards Saturday. He should. They get close to it. Again, I think Chroma should play all 4 quarters, so no reason why he shouldn't be close. But yeah, man, in summary, man, to wrap it all up, not going to go too long tonight. We're at 1:30, so that's perfect time. Great win. You came out there and you made a statement for sure. Because, again, you didn't just win. You buckled down, shut your mouth, Mutt. You buckled down, and you punched them in the mouth, and they had no response. They came in there thoughting they were a bully, and y'all know what happens when you punch the bully in the mouth. And that's what they did. But that game's in the past. That game's literally in the past now. Can't go back to it. You can watch it on YouTube every day, but you got more games. And though the ACC as a whole, I think, looks just so disappointing. Didn't expect it to be great to begin with, but it looks even worse after the first weekend. There's a team in the ACC that you're going to have to contend with, whether we hate to admit that or not. I know the garnet and gold runs through all our veins, and we want to not say nice things about Miami, but Miami's got a team, especially in the trenches. That's the game. That's the game. You get to that game undefeated, that's going to be a primetime matchup, most likely. Could be a game day type game. But Miami being in the top 5, FSU has moved up in the AP poll to number 14. I think in the coaching poll, they're 19. Rankings this early don't matter to me, but you will be a top 15 team, at least as long as you take care of business when you play Miami. As long as Miami takes care of business, Miami should be in the top 5 still or somewhere around there. Now, Miami's got a tricky game against USF. Now, I want to see what USF does to Florida, because I think that's a tricky game for Florida. And we saw what USF did to Boise State. So I want to, that game could be interesting. But as long as they take care of business, got an old school feeling Miami Florida State game. And that might not be the last time you play them this year. As long as, again, you take care of business. I don't think we know what Miami is yet. Notre Dame is suspect. I'm not saying Notre Dame is great, TD. Here's the thing. There's still things, even in a game that you would go, well, that team might not be. I mean, you can say the same thing about Florida State. Well, Bama's not what we thought they were. Whatever. The same thing I'll say about Miami, or same thing I'll say about Florida State, you can say about Miami to a degree. Even if you think, well, Miami didn't have to show much in X, Y, and Z. All you got to do is watch the tape. Miami's O-line isn't just all of a sudden going to fall apart. Again, I'm calling them the Great Wall of China. The Miami's O-line is legit, and I think their D-line is legit. From just that perspective, the same thing about Florida State. O-line looks legit, D-line looks legit. It's the same thing you can say about Miami. Those are going to be the two battles come that. So regardless of whether you think Miami is whatever you think they are, tape don't lie. Tape don't lie. Who do I think has the advantage? Great question. The only way you can answer that question, who do you think had the better team, I guess? I think Notre Dame and Alabama had some similarities there. Let me wait for this plane. You go back and watch Proctor at Bama. Played like a bum. You know who was worse? Number 54 for Notre Dame. That guy was borderline unplayable. I'm talking about he got worked all night. If Notre Dame could trade him for Proctor, they do that in a second, and Proctor did not look good against Florida State. Number 54 for Notre Dame, I don't know what they might want to reevaluate that tackle position, because that guy looked, again, unplayable. So they had a lot of the same disadvantages where Miami's D line was just putting in work. Notre Dame also did some things that I wasn't a fan of. You got like the best running back tandem in the country, and they didn't get those guys the ball. I thought that was idiotic of them. But hey, it is what it is. I don't know who has the advantage as of right now. It's a good question. We ain't even talk about that UNC debacle because there's nothing to talk about. That game was hysterically terrible. North Carolina, oh my God, they played so bad. I also think Simpson is a better QB than Carr. Playing that freshman in that environment didn't help Notre Dame. But Notre Dame they had some questionable stuff offensively. To that point, they called the same like bubble or quick screen to the. No wonder they got one picked off. They called it like 5 times in a row. Like at one point you were sitting there going, yeah, Miami's expecting another bubble screen because they kept doing them. Like, just Notre Dame did some dumb stuff. For sure. I'm interested to see how Danzy's continued evolution in the offense goes. Right? Because that's on film now. So now teams are going to be like, okay, expect Danzy to get one of those wheel routes and start moving him the way they were moving Jalen Lucas around. I should probably start. Danzy's evolution in offense is going to be fun to watch. Danzy's evolution is going to be fun to watch. But that's all I got for y'all tonight, guys. I'm going to go ahead and get up out of here. As always, man, y'all hit that like button, subscribe, share the video. I'll be on, of course, after the game. This game is going to be a little, this game's not as big as a deal, but I'll probably still do my halftime reaction and a post game. Definitely do a post game and do a halftime reaction. Might do another live before Saturday, just like a nose after dark on Friday, just to talk some more football before the game. But again, like button, subscribe, share. And as always, man, it's your boy Polk over on 863 Seminole TV. Y'all stay classy, Seminoles. And we are out here. Go Noles. Sky's the limit, man. You put the college world on notice, Florida State. Don't all gas, no brakes. Don't take your foot off the pedal. Y'all have a good rest of y'all evening.